Alexander of Macedon by Harold Lamb. We're starting with Chapter 10, Gates of the Sea. The men of Turur were the most experienced politicians of the eastern Mediterranean world. For a millennium, they had balanced risks and seized advantage, and prospered and gained power. People called their city the Mistress of the Seas, not the Master of the Seas. They were called Phoenicians, their city the gate of the sea. About them the Macedonians heard vague traditions. In the dawn of time they had controlled the caravan trade within the Red Land, the great Arabian desert now, facing the Red Sea. With the caravans they had appeared in time upon the coast, and had adapted themselves easily to shipbuilding and coastal trading by ship. They had built larger ships. They had sailed to Cyprus and North Africa in order to lay up their great trading vessels during the winter storms. They had built winter bases in the west, with warehouses to store the goods and forts to guard them. These bases had grown into colonies, and in time the colonies outgrew the mother cities except for Tura, which had been the offspring of Sidon, the first gate of the sea where the caravan route from Damascus, passing Mount Hermon, had terminated at the coast. Now, the aged mother, Sidon, struggled for life against the mature child in deadly rivalry, as Turur struggled with its own child, Carthage. For the inhabitants of Turur were Phoenicians, Canaanites, raising themselves to a highest standard of wealth, dispossessing rivals, striving to gain monopoly of the Mediterranean trade in purple dye and glass, perfumes, gems, and slaves. Their so-called, they considered their god to be El of the deserts, the one creator of life upon the earth. See, some of these terms can be beyond personification and all that. The Macedonians thought of the immovable mover of Aristotle, but now their concept of El had changed to the hot worship of god masters, Baal and Dagon. Before the giant images of Baal and Dagon, they burned sacrifices. I kind of understand the Church of Hermetic Sciences in saying Baal and Mot would be the pelvis and the center of the chest, maybe, or perhaps, the shoulder level, the throat level would be Dagon. But the parts of the body that correspond to what they're worshiping. The Sidonian Phoenicians accepted the presence of the Macedonians gratefully, and Alexandros ordered a sports stadium built on the hill behind Sidon. The rivals of Turur reasoned that the Macedonians were a small army, bound to move elsewhere in time, victorious, of course, in the spectacular affair of Issus, but strategically in a weak position, holding to a narrow coast between the land power of the great king and the sea power of Turur, or rather the fleet of Turur, allied to the fleets of Cyprus and Egypt. Also, their city of Turur was situated on an island off this coast, where an army on land could not besiege it. At last, it had successfully resisted other sieges. Quite plainly, the Turians could expect no advantage at all from opening their city to the Macedonians. On the other hand, they could foresee a great and real advantage in maintaining their strong point here between the sea and the land, balancing themselves between the temporarily successful Macedonian force and ultimately victorious forces of Inner Asia, by preserving the Mediterranean fleet. For the great king, they could claim renewed privileges, monopolies, and rewards at the expense of Sidon, which had gone over to the Macedonians. So they bargained, as the Milesians had bargained, and that had made Alexander furious because he had no patience with bargaining. He wanted either friendship or enmity. There was a preamble of deception on both sides. Macedonian commanders requesting only permission to allow the army to visit the shrine of Heracles within Tura, while the Turians suggested visiting instead the much older shrine on the mainland opposite Tur, and hinting that they would agree to bar out Persian agents as well as Macedonian soldiers. Thereupon, the Macedonian Army Council reached this decision to besiege Tur for reasons given by Arrian. To advance the expedition into Egypt would not be safe as long as the Persians hold mastery of the sea, nor will it be safe to advance inland. The situation in Greece is too doubtful, with the Spartans ready to move against us, and the Athenians restrained only by fear of us. If we capture Tur, the remaining fleets of the Phoenicians must come over to us, having no ports to go. Cyprus will then need to grant us the use of her fleet. When that happens, we shall hold the mastery of the sea and its islands. Then we can make the advance into Egypt without effort. With Egypt secured and the sea controlled, we need have no further anxiety about Greece. Our own land will be safe, and we could then, if we so decide, undertake the expedition inland to Babylon with greater security, because we will hold all maritime cities and the territory as far as the Euphrates, and we will have more prestige than now.